Welcome, folks. Another edition of the SAK show brought to you by MacCoffee. Power your now. Big shout out going all the way, of course, to Bollywood Casino, Wet Lounge, and Azure Hotel. Today's guest is a lady who is so fine in terms of her archery work. She's represented Kenya worldwide. Who are we talking about? Let's find out. Shehzana Anwar, popularly known as Cookie.
Yeah.
Before anything, I've always been curious. Cookie. Why is the nickname Cookie? Your name is Shehzana. Why not Shezu or Shez or something?
Oh, growing up throughout the years, my friends have made all sorts of names. I even had Shenzi as a name once in high school. But Cookie apparently came from when I was born. I think my parents had given up on naming their kids. So they apparently took about 6 weeks to name me.
Really?
And in the 6 weeks, I think a relative decided, I'm just going to ogle at this baby with Cookie. And the name stuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Cookie, Shehzana. Who exactly is Shehzana Anwar?
When people ask me that question, my first answer is me.
Me.
I just put up my hand and be like, me. But I guess she's a mystery that I'm hoping this interview will help you find out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, so let's set the ball rolling. Yeah. Tell me, what exactly do you love in your life?
Sports would be the biggest thing.
All sports?
All sports.
Very active in sports?
Very active, yes, definitely. My two biggest loves, I like to tell people, is sports and animals. So even career-wise, when I was looking into getting into a career, I was always looking at those two things. Sports, archery did become the biggest of my loves.
Yeah.
As you can see, I took it as far as I could. But behind the scenes, I currently play soccer, I play rounders.
Wow.
I play hockey, which was actually my first love in high school. And if I wasn't doing archery, I know I would have pursued hockey professionally.
So getting into the sports, I love it when women empowerment comes about, like chicks getting into sports and all that. It's very underrated. And you're, oh, you can do that? Yeah, I can do that. So tell me how and generally parents, you're not like, it's I can tell I know. I feel odd over here because I know her background and the family she comes from. It's a sporty family. But for interview purposes, I'll play a layman over here. How did your parents support you through this? Didn't they just tell you, okay, Cookie, enter the kitchen, and that's it? Sports is not made for you? Considering you have brothers.
Yeah. From a young age, I was always, high school was the biggest. That's when I learned my love for sports, and I would actually skip class to go play with the boys because I found that that was just better for me. I enjoyed that more. My parents were not happy about that part. They did believe education was very important. But being sports people themselves, they did encourage me the best they can. There was always basically my parents are a little traditional, you could say. So they did have their values that they wanted to keep. So, playing things like football was, of course, a problem. They thought I would end up playing outside in shorts with men watching me, and it wasn't something they were necessarily comfortable with. But of course, you can always play with tracks. You can play covered. I can play with my scarf. So they encouraged me the best they could. But it's just that I started archery at a very young age. So
what age was that?
13, 12 going on 13.
12, 13. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And who got you into it? Or I should say, when did you decide that archery is it?
Well, when I started archery at the time, it was very small in Kenya. In fact, it still is, but at that time it was even smaller. And the club at the time were really trying to get people to join. And so being such a young kid, as soon as you hear, oh, you're good at this, you follow it. And my parents were like, yeah, you know what, we'll join the club. And they would take me there every weekend, and I kept doing it, and I really enjoyed it. About after a year after doing it, we did a local competition here in Kenya, and I actually beat all the men taking part. And I didn't realize that at the time. I think I was a bit of a feminist. So as soon as, they put in the newspaper, her scores eclipsed all those of the men, I was like, I'm sold, I'm staying.
Okay.
So that was about the time I got sold to the sport, and I stayed.
And how do you compare it to the other sports, considering like archery is kind of like underrated, and it's not like a wow sport, like soccer's massive, and cricket.
I was, like I told you, I was very deep into sports, even when I came across archery. So you see, all the other sports are more, you could say, adrenaline based. You're running around, chasing a ball, screaming, all that kind of stuff. And then I was introduced to a sport where they're like, you know what, no, you have to stand still and concentrate. So I think I took it as a challenge because I was so used to being active. I think even on the line, my mother, exactly, my mother had to tell me, you need to concentrate, because she's my coach. So I kind of took it as a challenge. I'd be like, this is a sport and it requires you to do something different. I'm going to try and take that challenge on.
And how was that challenge? I mean, it's a turn completely, you know.
It is. I think this is probably why I still play other sports, so I can get the burnout.
I think the big question would be, right now you're like, are you a chilled out person in life?
Not at all.
Very quiet, humble, one in the corner, one who's focusing. And
when it comes to social things, yes. When it comes to social events and so on, then yes, I tend to be the quiet person in the corner. But when it comes to sports, no, I'm always in the middle making the most noise. So even in archery, I'm normally the person in the midst of the quiet. I would say something very silly, and then the archers around me would start laughing, or I would distract them like that. So I normally get into trouble for things like that.
Good stuff over here. Guys, Shehzana Anwar is here with us. We'll meet right after this.
Hi, I'm Monique. I'm a fitness trainer. I'm a kickboxing trainer and a personal trainer. MacCoffee, white coffee, 3-in-1. It is easy and fast to make. In between clients, I can make a cup of MacCoffee, white coffee, 3-in-1, and it's only 15 shillings. MacCoffee, power your now.
So, archery, Kenya, how did that happen?
I don't know. When I just got into it, my parents encouraged me. I got the equipment. I got everything needed. And then Kenya was invited for first World Games, basically. And being the only one who was the most serious on the scene, I had some very nice, my mentors basically, who are not Kenyan, they cannot represent Kenya, but they kind of pushed me forward and said she should go. Being the only one who was doing it at the time.
Is there a criteria, or you were the only one, so you just...
I was the only one at the time, so it was kind of like they pushed me forward, They did do a basic qualification at the time, a few local competitions, they see your scores and they're like, she's the only one eligible. And Germany, where the World Games were held, they accepted, they're like, yeah, we'll take her. So I did that. Was my first international competition, and then thereafter, just one after the other, Africa Championships came, and so on and so forth.
So you are the Olympic flag bearer for Kenya.
Yes.
How was that?
Proudest moment so far. Yes.
That must be amazing. I mean, you know, and it's an achievement. I mean, bravo for that. Kudos to that.
Thank you very much.
Many more to come. Now, coming back to archery in Kenya itself, is it? You know, the sport itself, what is the downfall? What is lacking? I mean, is it corrupt? Do we have to push it more? I mean, you being an archery champ on an international level, what's your take on that?
I think the biggest thing is recognition. You can see after our runners started winning medals, they have the most recognition any athlete has in Kenya. So archery needs to be recognized. We are pushing it from our side. For example, a lot of people don't know archery exists in Kenya.
I didn't know that.
But if you come to the club,
I met your mom.
But if you come to the club, you'll be so surprised the number of archers we actually have on the line. I mean, the members are coming up, but the regulars, we can go up to 40 even sometimes, and people can't believe that. They'll think, oh, there's only 2 or 3 of us at most.
So there is an association, a Kenyan Archery Association or something?
Yes, we have a national club of Kenya. Where people can come and try out the sport, and we encourage people to get into it, and then from there we can push them internationally.
So you train them, or how does it work if somebody wants to join that?
First off is, of course, they have to show up. Then we encourage them to try it. It's good trial and error. There's a lot of people who try something and they don't like it at all, or they find it doesn't work for them. So we get people to try the sport, and a lot of people just fall in love with it, like I did. So, and then from there we find out what they can afford, because of course equipment costs a lot. So we get them to join the club. Once you're a member, you're free to train whenever you want, but you have to have your own equipment. So we help them, we advise them how to get equipment, where they can get it from. It's not available locally, unfortunately. So they have to have contacts to bring it in from abroad.
And you can hook them up with everything.
I can advise them on what to get, but I can't actually bring it for them. That's where the challenge is. So, you know, they have to choose their shipping company and bring it in.
So we don't have an archery equipment available in a sports shop in Nairobi?
No, not an official sports shop. I have heard that it's available somewhere in Nairobi, but I've never, you know, it's not an official, I'm guessing.
And is it a very expensive hobby as such?
Depends on how far you want to get. I like to compare it to cars. Basically, you can have a Toyota Vitz, which will take you from A to B, but you can have a Toyota Land Cruiser, which will take you from A to B with more style, or you know, with more Fujo, as people like say, you get there faster or whatever. So, but you see, both will still get you from A to B. So when it comes to bows, it's the same thing. You can get something affordable that will get you to shoot and get you as far as you need to. But for example, I shot for very many years with intermediate bow, and then when I finally invested in the top of the range bow, that is the same year I won the championship. So you see, equipment does play a part.
So it does matter. The bow and arrow matters.
The further you want to get, you have to invest. Yes.
So if you're given a normal Maasai bow and arrow, you can work it out.
No, you can work it out for the basics, but you're not going to get too far competition-wise.
So tell me, you know, I've always been curious, and saw a couple of people, you know, I mean, your dad's a legendary rally driver. You know, your brothers are getting into motorsport and autosport and all that. You know, why did you choose such a calm sport compared to that? They didn't push you to go into rallying and become like a female rally driver and all that stuff, considering they had all their tools and their experience and everything.
Tools and experience is one thing, but funding is another. Motorsport is very, very expensive.
Yes.
And it actually is more expensive than archery. So I have done a few races with my dad's help. He had some old rally cars and he builds them very well, touch wood, mashallah. So he's let me borrow his car, and I've done a few races, just one or two, which I actually won. And then the other ladies would be like, oh, you should do the Kenyan National Rally Championship. But I didn't really have the interest. I would love to do it for fun, but not seriously, because I think I was already sold to the other sports I do and archery. I already found my love. So
tell me, archery, what is there a particular, what is your regime for archery? The more you practice, or how do you practice? How do you prepare for it? How do you prepare for an international tournament?
I think that's the best way forward is to train for anything is you have to do it itself. So I find that the more time I spend on the range, actually shooting, is the best training I can get. So when a competition is coming up, I try to make a regime where I'm at the range minimum 4 hours a day, at least 6 days a week.
Wow.
I try and cut, because I'm starting to break out and become a little more of a social person and so on and so forth. So when there's no competition coming, like currently, then I try to break away from the range just a little bit. Spend more time at home tuning the bow rather than on the range shooting.
Okay. And what about any physical requirements for it? You know, do you need to like work on your arms or shoulders, or is there a particular regime for that?
From my experience, I feel everyone is different. A lot of people ask me this, and I see everybody is different. You could be someone who requires to be at the gym every day in order to feel stronger, but for someone like me, I feel being on the range or playing all the other sports I do is more than enough.
It's more than enough.
A lot of people do recommend the gym for archers, but there are very particular exercises you can do. You can't just hit the gym, do a basic bicep curls and all the normal exercises they do and consider that to be archery related. It's actually not. It's one of the biggest misconceptions of archery. So there are very particular exercises which you can actually do at home just by a set of dumbbells. You figure out the exercises. Once you know them, you're sorted.
So archery is just a hobby. It cannot be a full-time profession as such.
It can.
Does it pay your bills as such or no?
It can, which is what I'm currently working on doing. I wanted to, basically without any other authority support, basically the relevant authorities that's supposed to support us. Without them, I'm trying to get archery to pay my way to competition and so on. So I never have to rely on anyone else to get there.
So initially you're in it for yourself. Like at the moment it's like everyone for himself, God for us all. Is it like that right now?
Yes, precisely.
But inshallah it should work.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm hoping.
Okay, well we wish you all the best with that one.
Thank you very much.
And your biggest inspiration in this field?
I actually feel that majority of the people I have met have inspired me in one way or the other. It's not necessarily on the range only. In terms of archery, I think the archers I follow internationally, for example, the Korean who actually beat me at the Olympics, she's actually one of my idols, and I did get her autograph before she beat me. So it's one of those things, I like to follow them and learn from them. But technically speaking, for example, meeting you today is an inspiration to me in one way or the other, and I will keep it with me going forward. So my best friend is one of my biggest inspirations as well. My parents having pushed me this far, so everyone I meet is actually an inspiration.
Awesome. So you're single at the moment. Any plans of marriage soon?
No, not at all.
You're married to your boy and arrow, right?
Yes, yes, currently.
Good stuff, man. I know you like your coffee dilute, so you can try and dilute this one.
This will last me a year.
A hamper for you from our sponsor.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
For your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming, and inshallah, we wish you all the best. I'm sure you'll do well.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys, for watching. Like, share, subscribe. It is the SAK Show, powered by MacCoffee. Power your now on Zindagi TV.